DSP tries it.
What's going on, everyone? Darkside Phil here with another installment of DSP Tries It. And today what we're going to do is talk about a controller that I actually used over the course of the hardcore gaming season of 2012, meaning roughly probably mid to late September through probably early to mid-December, okay? So we're talking about a 3-month period when I was non-stop. I was playing video games for YouTube. And unfortunately, unlike some other things like products that I try out, a game controller is a little different simply because you really do need to use it over time in order to get a fair assessment of the quality of the controller. You know, if I just open this up out of the box brand new, oh, the buttons feel good, but I didn't have hands-on experience, it kind of doesn't mean anything. So I wanted to actually wait out a certain amount of time before I did a DSP Tries It video for this controller because I wanted to give you a fair assessment of it, okay? Now, as you can see, this is the Razer Onza Tournament Edition controller for the Xbox 360. And it features actually a couple cool functional things that other controllers don't have. It actually has a extra long cord, which you're going to see when we actually open this sucker up. In fact, I'm trying to see right here. It's 15 feet, a 15-foot long cord. It's got some different style buttons than what's on a standard Xbox controller. It's actually got a different D-pad on the shoulders. It actually has double shoulder buttons. I'm going to show you all this and show you how it actually works. It also has adjustable tightness on your thumbsticks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy out of the box. I'm going to show you the features, and then I'm going to show you, well, probably show you and explain to you what I discovered about this controller. Now, this controller you can get at any retail store. I've seen it at GameStop. I've seen it at Best Buy. I actually bought this one at Best Buy. And the retail price is $39.99. Okay, so 40 bucks for a wired controller. It is wired. Okay, so I'm taking it out of the packaging here just so everyone knows what I'm doing. Okay. Alright, so the first thing I want to show you about this controller. The cable. This by far is the longest cable I've ever seen for a wired controller. 15 flippin' feet. And the controller actually is made of that nylon material, so you don't have to worry about, oops, it got cut, or, you know, your dog comes and nibbles on it a little bit and the thing falls apart. This is the durable material. And also what you don't have to worry about is by folding up the cord like this, the cord's not going to get damaged. A lot of other controllers that don't have the nylon style cord, the cord actually eventually cracks and breaks after, you know, folding it up like this. This cord is not going to do that, okay? It also features the standard breakaway failsafe for the Xbox 360, and what I mean by that is on Xbox 360 controllers, they actually have this feature where if you accidentally pull on it too much, it disconnects rather than pulling the entire cable out of your console and therefore possibly yanking your console across the floor and or off a shelf and damaging it, okay? So the controller itself, and I know people are going to already having questions looking at this from something that's apparent, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. The controller itself has a nice design. It's sleek. It actually is made of that coating. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's not like a standard Xbox 360 controller. Let me show you what I mean. Standard Xbox 360 controller is just plain plastic. It can get greasy after using it for extended periods of time. This controller has a coating on it that is a special coating that's like an anti-stick coating. Now, it's not perfect. If you are playing it for extended periods of time, you probably will still have, you know, a little bit of sweaty greasiness to it, but it is a nice feature. It has this nice Razer design on the front. You got your start and your back buttons. Your D-pad is actually 4 triangular shaped buttons, as you can see there, okay? Your face buttons are actually, I have to say, probably the best feature that I liked about this controller were the face buttons, because take a listen. You hear that? It's a very small button, it's flat, and it's a very easy click. And so in a game where you have to tap the button really fast multiple times, you could do it really well. Compare that to a standard Xbox 360 controller, the button is actually thicker, it's a deeper push. It needs more of a push to actually function. This doesn't need as much effort. So the face button's a vast improvement over the standard Xbox 360 controller in my opinion. The thumbsticks are made of a special kind of rubber and or plastic. I'm not exactly sure what it's made of, okay? But It's a different from the standard Xbox 360 controller, which is a standard hard gray rubber. It's more of a softer rubber, and I think what it is, they wanted you to have ease of use using your thumbstick. And again, speaking of that, the thumbstick, as you can see with the regular Xbox 360 controller, wide circulation. And this one, not as wide, so it's actually more responsive to your inputs. In addition, these thumbsticks actually have, I'll show you, an adjustment. If I turn it, alright, it's already turned all the way. Here we go. You can actually loosen or tighten the thumbstick. So by turning it right, I'm actually loosening the thumbstick, and it makes it actually easier or harder to move. And some people like a little bit more precision control. You're going to want a little bit harder of a resistance on your thumbstick. And both thumbsticks have that feature, okay? Turn it back now. So now let's look at the back of the controller, because this is interesting. The back of the controller, I'm sorry, I'm trying to focus in here. There we go. Features a couple cool things. First of all, just to show you the buttons, 2 shoulder buttons, not one. I know they call them bumpers or whatever. 2 of them plus a trigger. Now you might be saying, oh, does that mean you get an extra button? Well, I'm going to explain in a second. The answer is actually no. But 2 shoulder buttons and a trigger that's much different, as you can see, than triggers on the standard Xbox 360 controller. The standard controller is just a trigger, okay, a rounded trigger. This actually has an extended finger rest. See that? So for precision aiming and precision firing, it's a little bit more quick on the job than the standard Xbox 360 controller due to the design of those. And then the final feature that I want to discuss with you is the back here. It's actually programmable. Remember I showed you up here these buttons? There's 2 shoulder buttons. That's because one of these on each side is actually programmable. Now you might be saying to yourself, oh, that's great, you can program in commands, this thing has a memory to it. No, that's not the case. I remember back in the 1990s, they used to sell controllers where you could like program in the Hadouken for Street Fighter and it would just do a special move when you press the button. That's not the case here. You might be saying, oh, that's great, well, what if there's a game that I'm playing where, you know, maybe it's a beat 'em up and if you have to press X and A to do a special attack together, can you do that? And the answer there is, no, you can't do that. And I was a little taken aback when I bought the controller because I actually thought that's what it was, and that's not what it is. Let me explain. What it basically is that you can make these shoulder buttons do the same thing as any other button on the controller. So you can make that be a trigger, you can make that be a face button, you can make that be the start or back buttons, but you cannot make it be more than one button together. It's just basically a mimic of another button. So if for whatever reason you don't like using your face buttons, you can use this. Maybe there's a game where there's a face button that would be better used if you mapped it to a shoulder button. Maybe you are a person that hates the triggers, okay? Some people hate the triggers. Maybe you'd like to have 2 shoulder buttons. You can do that. You can have one be a shoulder button and one be a trigger, okay? So that functionality is there, but I was a little disappointed because I thought it was going to be like a programmable controller. I want it to be X and Y together. Nope, you can't do that. It can only be one button at a time, okay? So let me give you my honest opinion on the controller and my experience with it. The first month that I had the controller, which is probably about September to October, I loved it. Like I said, the face buttons, some of the most reactive face buttons I've ever played on any controller. They're really good face buttons. The D-pad, I mean, if you're using it for a first-person shooter or something like that, it's not bad. If you're going to try to use this D-pad for a fighting game, you probably wouldn't be able to because they've completely changed the design. Since it's 4 completely separate triangular-shaped buttons, it's hard to roll your finger across them to try to do something like a Shoryuken or a Hadouken. Imagine trying to do a spinning pile driver with Zangief on this thing. You'd never be able to do it, okay? The triggers, the shoulder buttons, they're fine. They're fine. They're just as responsive as any other controller. But the thing that I started to notice after about a month and a half of using this controller was that all of a sudden, sometimes in games, my guy would start to walk by himself. And I said, what's going on? I would literally not be touching the controller, and on screen my character would start walking. And what I came to find out is this adjustment feature that they have on these thumbsticks actually apparently is faulty, because after you use it for a couple months, the thumbsticks actually become stuck in certain directions. They don't ever return properly to neutral. So after only about a month and a half to 2 months, I discovered that this was a problem. This is a major problem, okay? You need your thumbstick to be able to snap back to neutral. It's unacceptable. But then, in addition to that, take a look at what happened after a few months of use. And I'll try to zoom in here to show you what I mean. Do you see what happened to the rubber? The rubber that they used for this controller for the thumbsticks literally absorbs your sweat and your oils of your thumbs, and after a few months it actually becomes soft. Okay, look, you can even see my thumbnail. It's coming apart. It becomes porous, meaning that holes appear in it, and it actually starts to fall apart. And this thumbstick, of course this is the thumbstick you use the most because you use it for motion in every game, literally the thing fell off. Look at that. It's destroyed. And there's no way to fix that. Not only is there no way to fix it, there's no way to replace it. These aren't replaceable. So, for a controller that's a $40 wired controller that the box says is a tournament edition controller. I mean, this is a controller that you would take to tournaments with you. You'd constantly be using it. If you're a tournament player, it means you play more than normal people. This controller is a miserable failure. It's got critical design flaws. Thumbsticks that don't return to neutral after just a few months. Rubber that absorbs the grease and sweat from your body and falls apart after a few months. And a D-pad that you can't really use for motion. It's just for single button inputs. So 3 critical flaws in this controller. And I'll be honest with you, I loved it after the first month. I was kind of a little bit getting pissed off after that second month when it started walking on its own. And then after these thumbsticks started falling apart, I hate this controller. This is a controller for a casual player. This is for someone who's not going to be playing games every day. Because it's obvious if you actually do use it to play games every day, the damn thing falls apart. So I don't know what Razer was thinking. I'll be honest, I have a lot of Razer products. I've actually got under my table here, there's a Razer gaming keyboard. Over on my computer, I've got a Razer gaming mouse. I own Razer products, and I was very disappointed to find that now that they're delving into the console market, that this controller sucks ass. So I'm sorry, Razer, I've got to be honest. I'm going to, give a score based off of my personal experiences. Your controller was great while it worked, but it only worked for about 2 months before I started having major malfunctions, and then the thing damn fell apart on me. So unfortunately, on a DSP Tries It is on a 1 to 5 basis. I have to give the Razer Onza controller a 1 out of 5 stars. It's great for when you have it, and then it starts falling apart, and it's a hot mess basically. And that's unfortunate. The only reason it gets the 1 star is because when it's new out of the box for about a month, month and a half, you're going to get a great experience. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't game all the time, maybe you only game an hour to a day, a couple days a week, this might be a controller you're interested in because it's not going to wear out. But for everyone else who actually does game, pretty decently, I can't recommend the controller. I think that they fucked up with the design, and I don't know what happened here, but it's a miserable failure. And just to give you some perspective, okay? And I don't know if I actually have it out here, but I want to give you some perspective on this. I actually I still have my original Xbox 360 controller from when I got my original Xbox 360 100 years ago. There it is. And I want to show you something. Sure, the thumbstick is worn. You can obviously see that my thumb has gone against it a lot. There's no bump here where there used to be a bump. But it's still fucking in one piece. Like, what? How did they manage to design a thumbstick made of a kind of rubber that falls apart? You know what that really tells me? Whoever designed the Razer Onza Xbox 360 controller never thoroughly tested it. All they did is they had a new one that they gave to some people to use. The new people played on the new one, and they never had an extended product test for a few months. Anyone with a brain would know that if you use this for a few months, look, the rubber's falling apart in my finger. It's pathetic. So Razer Onza, a big disappointment. I want to let everyone know because on the onset, the controller actually works and looks great, and this is kind of like a cautionary tale for anyone. I'm glad that I'm making this review because I hope this helps people to know. Don't buy this controller. This controller only works for people who don't play a lot. If you play a lot, it's going to fall apart, and that's not fair for a controller that's called a Tournament Edition controller that's supposed to be used a lot, that this happens to it, okay? Alright. So that's it for this episode of DSP Tries It. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back hopefully soon reviewing another product and or food item and or who knows what. I actually have a couple things up my sleeve that I will be checking out. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.